Per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. The long-awaited day has finally come to get excited about altcoins, potentially, maybe, some of them, depending on how long you've been holding them. Ideally, only a couple weeks for most of these. But the usual song and dance with the indices here, the dominance on Bitcoin doesn't look bearish. Now, it doesn't need to go to zero. It doesn't need to see this precipitous decline like it did in 2021 for alts to perk up a little bit, and that's of course what we're seeing. So on an individual basis, some of these alts doing well irrespective of dominance. One issue with dominance is, of course, the denominator is full of tons of junk that is forever going to be declining against BTC. So this is a great first pass, but you got to keep in mind, of course, yeah, on any given day, any alt can be up 20%. But that's not really what we're looking at here. We're looking at the broad overview. Does it make more sense to trade alts versus BTC? Broadly, that answer to me, still no, broadly, because BTC hasn't even broken out yet. And if BTC breaks out, that's a trade I'd like to capture. If BTC breaks down, alts are going to break down harder. So we're in this weird limbo state still where we are pretty bullish on BTC, but not exactly full-blown bull trend. And some alts are starting to do well. And I think most of what we're seeing is this type of activity where it's in aggregate double bottoming, triple bottoming on USD pairs coming off of this falling wedge variant. Still, most of these are in the cloud or below the cloud, below the 200-day moving average. We still have printing on stables every day. I see USDC 50 million, 50 million, 50 million. Tether, I don't think has printed in a minute, but stables look good. Liquidity looks good. Realistically, it's only a matter of time, but you, of course, have to dodge the potential of BTC going back to the bottom of the range, or worse, BTC retracing to sub 50, sub 40, whatever, right? Like this is the risk. The risk is we look better to me than we've looked in many months on the USD pair, but it is not a slam dunk yet. The cloud is even telling you that. Bearish TK cross, bearish cloud so far. Is this a triple bottom? Is this a double bottom? We don't know yet. Is this a higher high yet? We don't know yet. Is this a higher low yet? We don't know yet. So there's still a lot of uncertainty here as we limp our way out of Q3 into Q4. And I don't think there's any reason to panic. There isn't a rush here. Just this is what it is, right? It looks better than it has, but it doesn't look great. Doesn't look amazing. Doesn't look like a slam dunk to me just yet. But we're getting there. On total 2 over BTC, stripping out the stables in aggregate, you get a little bounce. Now on a few names, there's a huge bounce. Sui, a few others, but that's like 1 out of 10,000, right? So yeah, if you're paying attention, if you're watching that, and people have been chirping at me in the comments, we talked about, say, Sui, Apt, we talked about those last week, the week before. If you're scanning the markets at least once a week, you should notice fairly easily on an individual basis, hey, is this alt flat for 3 months? That's weird. Why is everything else still going down? Right? Like that, of course, is something you should pay attention to, but broadly, trend on this is still bearish. Now, does that mean this has to go down another 60%? No. It just means momentum is not necessarily positive yet. And again, you've got people who want to bottom tick and top tick every move. That's not how I like to trade. So you may not like some of this analysis when it comes to alts because you might be saying, oh, this coin's up 80%. Josh, what are you doing? This coin's up 55%. What are you doing? That's fine. But this, I still might have a little range PTSD from what's been going on here. An encouraging sign, if we look at the riskiest of the risky, ARK is a good example. UFO is a good example, the ETF UFO. Any product that's extremely far out on the risk curve can be used as an analog for alts because it's the same type of capital that's allocating into things like ARK, into biotech, into space stuff, right? And this has held flat for going on 3 years. And that ain't nothing. Does it look particularly bullish here? Not necessarily, but it doesn't look bearish either. It's held the range for a long time. So don't be surprised when we get a resurgence of articles about ARK and oh man, everyone was wrong, right? Like That could totally happen. And that's, if you're being honest, that's what you want to happen. Because if ARK is up on a month-over-month basis, so too will altcoins. It will likely be an alt-type season, if you will. One other metric you can use for the broad ecosystem is, of course, ETH BTC. And, you know, I'm the dad who is telling you can't go outside and play at recess or something. But what do I care? Either way, this doesn't look like momentum is back in a positive way. For me, I would much rather wait for this scenario post 2020 above the 50-week moving average to be sure that this thing is bottomed. And notice there were months of a bottoming process. Adam and Eve, W, whatever. We are just starting whatever this could be. Do I expect this to go down another 60%, another 80%? No, I don't. But it doesn't mean I just assume this is the bottom either. This could be on the struggle bus for another 6 months into 2025. Not only does it have BTC nipping on its heels now, but it's got everything else that's doing better. Not even Sol. All of the coins I'm going to talk about today, for the most part, put those against ETH, and it's no contest. So why would anybody looking for the hottest of hot coin allocate into ETH based on that? We can argue fundamentals all you want, but at the end of the day, does the type of money allocating into WIF care about ETH fundamentals versus fundamentals on Aptos? I don't think so. So trend-wise, on the bearish side of everything, it needs to be above to be bullish. Is it oversold? Maybe. But to just assume this is the bottom, it's a little bit early for that. Before we go any further, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro with the link in the description of this video. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Ventures Inc., PVI, DBA, Kraken. Kraken is what I use personally for all my altcoin needs and wants and desires. And they've done a good job listing a lot of stuff over the past 3 to 6 months. So if you haven't taken a gander in a minute, take a look. But this is Monero, and I thought I'd talk about this specifically because it's another case of the chart looks good. There are a lot of people here because of the fundamental reasons. That's fine. I have no issues with that. But if you think this is going to outperform most of the other coins on this list, that is highly, highly unlikely. So you have to be honest with yourself. Are you here because you like the principles and the fundamentals of the blockchain? Or are you here because you want to make money? Because those two together aren't necessarily the same thing. And hey, that goes for BTC too, on certain days and certain times. All right, so when we're looking at individual names, what do I like to do mentally in my head? Line them up all against each other. Really just look at the cloud fractal. What is the cloud telling you? What is trend metrics telling you? What are the vibes telling you? Vibes for ETH are still telling me cope, maximum cope. This is still trend-wise below the cloud. What I would love to see going into either late Q4, early Q1, Q2, whatever, 2025, some sort of we are sure this is a bottom process similar to what we saw into Q4 last year. That would probably look like closest an inverted head and shoulders. Still far from forming and confirming and still below the cloud. So to me, this is an ignore. If you're just going to be honest about it, you're looking for momentum. You're not looking to sit in something hoping that it's the bottom. You can trade that way if you want. I don't prefer to trade that way when there are other things that are moving. There were also a lot of people commenting on this last night when I posted this. Oh man, would you look at that? Here comes BlackRock. Would you just look at it? Well, my read on this is whoever sold ETH yesterday, the day before yesterday, probably bought BlackRock's product the next day, if I had to guess. Either way, this is not what you're hoping for. This has been nothing but a disaster for ETFs, okay? It will be obvious and should be obvious beyond a day, beyond 1 day of action, that people actually care about this product. That day is probably a ways off. But that's something else to add to the checklist here. Do we see price bottoming relative to flows, flows coming in relative to price, whatever? We just don't see that yet. For the rest of these graphs, I'll have USD charts on the left, BTC charts on the right. Sol's just flat here, nothing really to say. Neutral, really on both. USD and BTC pairs, which for the time being is detrimental to Sol because there are a lot of coins that are Sol-like, Sol adjacent. They got Sol, but they're not a soldier, if you know what I mean, that are moving. So the hot ball of money is rotating to those coins for now. But this looks more neutral than ETH, certainly. BNB on the USD pair, very convincing triple bottom. Again, compare this to ETH. Does ETH have a confirmed triple bottom yet at the neckline with a neckline retest above the cloud? No, it has none of that, right? This isn't an argument about fundamentals. This is just looking at the technicals. The BTC pair, similar to Sol BTC, just kind of flat, neutral, but on the bullish side, it's out of this mega downtrend it was in for a year, right? So it's clearly not that bearish. It's more on the neutral side of bullish, but it is not complete death spiral like it was in 2023. Ripple, just really kind of nothing going on the USD side. On the BTC side, also, like, yeah, there's a trade you could take, obviously. Even ETH, I give it crap, but obviously you can just say, all right, screw this guy. I know this is the bottom, and put your stop loss at 2,200 and buy anything above that. That's totally okay. And you can do the same thing with any chart where there's at least a vague defined risk reward profile. Even here in Ripple BTC, what would your stop loss be? New lows. It's already down 80%, 70%. Okay, sure, right? Like if you want to play that game, you can totally play that game. It's got some momentum, but there's also opportunity cost. There's a time component. I would definitely be cognizant of that. Doge, starting to look a little bit better, starting to get into the daily cloud, trying to bottom, trying to break out of this falling wedge. Doge BTC basically sitting at multi-year lows. Doesn't look great, but again, you could just say, all right, stop loss at new lows and play that game. Ain't nothing wrong with that. I would just size that down and I wouldn't have any expectations that this thing actually finds a bottom here. Ton did well. March to July. I don't hear too many people talking about it anymore. Trend-wise, looks about as good as ETH does. Just kind of flat, middling, rangy. Ton BTC, rangy. There's really, at this point, to me, no reason to continue trading this for now until alt season kicks up again. ADA also out of its downtrend, at least trying to get out of its downtrend again. Maybe double bottom, maybe eventual triple bottom, maybe eventual Kumo breakout. ADA BTC also just forever downtrend. But yes, of course, you can play the game where, hey, new lows equal stop loss. Go from here. You could say this is very oversold on the weekly. Huge TK disequilibrium there. Very far down below the cloud. The reason you see this on many charts is because of issuance. It's because people use BTC as a savings account. Whereas do they use ADA as a savings account? Some people might, but I don't think on a relative basis, more people use ADA as a savings account than BTC, coupled with issuance. This is why we have this huge run up during bull periods, and it gives it all back in bear periods. The other thing about where this price is here, I would love to see a multi-week bottom like we saw 2019 going into 2020 against BTC. So it's a little early on that one for sure to pull the trigger, at least for me. Tron USD looks fine. Tron BTC basically flat. On a relative basis, it looks much better than most alts do. It's held those levels, but has it really ever had positive momentum? No, it really hasn't. Against Bitcoin, it's held the range. It's done better than ADA, but hasn't really ever had a positive trend since it started trading against BTC. AVAX, basically the ADA chart, very similar. On the daily against BTC, it's retraced everything over the past year, basically. And this looks like a bottoming process in action, but certainly not bullish just yet. SHIB, similar to Doge, probably a cleaner double bottom, a cleaner edge to edge entry here. A huge drawdown on the BTC pair that has been bottoming for several weeks, if not months here, very similar to the 2024 level. So this is an interesting chart from that perspective. The USD pair looks like it's ready to go. Also falling wedge channel type stuff. And just a huge drawdown against BTC. So charts like this, I think they really need BTC bullish or Sol bullish or something. But they look very ready at the starting line at any sign of bullishness. Link on the USD pair. trying to W, trying to flatten out, kind of where most alts are now. On the BTC pair, a new multi-year low. It's sitting at a new multi-year low. This is probably a bull div if I had to guess, but obviously this is not trend bullish. Into 2025, we may get some sort of huge megaphone type structure, broadening, descending wedge, whatever. So this could be the bottom of the range, but definitely not bullish on high time frames. Near also W into the cloud looks fine. Near BTC, just flat ranging, similar to Sol, similar to BNB. Not really a great case for a setup just yet. And you're also risking head and shoulders type structure until that negates itself. Doesn't quite look ready against BTC. DOT, oh boy. DOT BTC, new all-time lows. DOT might be the new Zcash for me, just because it's held such a great downtrend for so long. And yes, this could bounce, but it needs to hold levels for a very long time for this cloud to catch up on the weekly. So it's going to be much more obvious than this if this is a bottom. It's probably going to be, similar back to like ADA, where was it? The ADA BTC chart, right? Like, look at this drawdown and look at how long it held that level. That's what DOT needs to see in order to be sure that a bottom is in on the BTC pair. On the USD pair, it's retraced everything, gave back everything from Q4 last year, and trying to bottom with everything else. No confirmation there just yet. Uni gave everything back from last year, just holding flat. And on the BTC pair, looks tragically awful. Back to basically multi-year lows. LTC on the USD pair, trying to bottom. This is a huge multi-year support resist level, diagonal. Doesn't quite look ready yet to me, but it's trying. And against BTC, this is the monthly. And, do you really want to sit in this? Really? I mean, much like Tron, much worse than Tron, honestly, more like Zcash and DOT. This has really only been down. It has had brief months out of several years where it has done well. But you're really kind of guessing in assuming that this is able to bounce anytime super soon. Still very much bearish. Definitely not a buy and hold against BTC. Finally, did some strength. SUI, not Solana, not ETH, has done very well. We talked about this on this channel for at least 3 weeks now, back here. It was one of the few that broke above the cloud on the USD pair. Also has done well on the BTC pair. For me, I don't think this is alt season, like I said. This is like, take your 20 to 50% and say, thank you very much, Mr. or Mrs. Market. I'm moving on. It's sell half on a double season and just hold that bag for 6 months and see what happens. And this has really only gone straight up. So I'd love to see some consolidation. I'd love to see some support levels get confirmed, because right now the daily support is like 112 on the cloud. So I would be careful up here because I'm sure there's some sort of bear div on both of these charts. ICP, Aptos, which I'll talk about in a second, those look ready to go to me. Now, any chart that looks like this, multi-month bottom attempt in the cloud, downward momentum has stopped. You're not guessing, right? This is not DOT BTC. This is not ETH BTC. This is not many of the other charts I've talked about. This is real deal. It looks like a triple bottom, looks like an ascending triangle, inverted head and shoulders, right? It's got all those characteristics. It's trying to do something. Trend-wise, it's not quite bullish yet, but I would rather trade this than this right now, because this feels like, okay, I've missed the move, whereas this is pre-breakout, pre-move on both USD and BTC pairs. I don't know if this is going to do well, just saying, based on the technicals, that's what I like. I also like that on the BTC pair, it gave everything back from 2023. So you can put this one on your fridge and look at it every time you pull out the tendies that mom made yesterday to warm up in the microwave. Fetch, also in a different place than most of these charts. It triple bottomed, it made its way through the cloud. On a relative basis, again, I'd rather trade this than SUI. SUI looks way stretched to me. This looks like it definitely has some room to run. Tau closer to SUI. Let me find the other Say. So Say is very similar here. A fresh breakout, triple bottom, bottoming process, new highs. These are all great things, especially against Bitcoin. You're going to get a bullish Kumo twist there in a second. Tau probably closer to Sui in that it has done very well. I'm sure it's close to the measured move of this triple bottom. But again, this is a multi-month process. This wasn't a surprise when this broke out, even on the BTC pair. Very clearly had a defined range, was making higher lows and then broke out. Aptos also looks good to me in that it's a fresh breakout. Again, it gave everything back from 2023. Everything. Ready to run it back turbo. So on the USD pair, it looks good. On the BTC pair also looks very good. This is what you want to see for ETH. Everyone's sort of jumping the gun every 0.05 down. Like, we will know. It's not going to be a surprise. I promise you. So it looks very good against BTC. Lastly here, TIA, just because I know a lot of people have eyeballs on this. This one's also trying to bottom, trying to bust out of its downward channel. Maybe a little early, maybe not. You know, you can see this triple bottom, new lows, probably a bull div. It looks okay. Doesn't look terrible. It certainly looks better than many altcoins out there. So there are enough alts that are pre-breakout or active breakout that aren't showing signs of bearish divergence or that they're too tired to run. You know, realistically, you know, if I can find it, is a better trade SHIB or is a better trade SUI, right? I'm not saying cycle. I'm just saying this week into October, where do I think the better trade's going to be? It's probably going to be SHIB just because it hasn't moved already. This doesn't even need to pull back, doesn't need to go to zero, but just on a relative basis, there are plenty of options. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.